My name is Maya Sterling. I am 28 years old, and exactly 1 hour ago, I stood over my grandfather's grave in Annapolis. The service had just concluded, leaving a blur of somber faces and whispered condolences in its wake. I was walking across the old church's gravel parking lot, the humid Maryland air thick and heavy against my skin. In my palm, my fingers were wrapped tightly around the small, ornate key he had pressed into my hand 3 months ago, just as the weakness began to take hold of him. Everyone chalked it up to his 85 years, assuming it was just old age finally catching up to a long life. Then my phone vibrated, a sharp buzz against my leg. It was an unknown number. Maya, the voice was strained, familiar but frayed with panic. This is Caleb Vance, your grandfather's attorney, and his oldest friend. He sent me something, a package, mailed the day before he passed away. Listen to me. What is inside it changes absolutely everything. You need to come to my office on Main Street, and you need to come right now. He paused, his breath shaky and uneven. And Maya, come alone. Do not, under any circumstances, tell your parents or your brother. His voice was trembling so badly I could barely make out the last few words. I did not ask questions. I drove straight there, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. 10 minutes later, I pulled up to the historic brick building. The office was nearly pitch black, a stark contrast to the bright afternoon sun. The heavy oak door was slightly ajar, creaking as it swayed in the coastal breeze. I gave it a gentle push. The scene inside sent a jolt of pure ice through my veins. My younger brother, Jackson, had Mr. Vance pinned against a wall of leather-bound books. His fist was twisted in the old man's collar, and he was snarling, his voice a low growl. "Give me the new will, you old fool, now!" The lawyer's eyes, wide with terror, found mine from across the dimly lit room. The instant Jackson spun around to face me, his expression shifting from rage to shock, Mr. Vance seized the opportunity. He shoved something small and hard into the pocket of my blazer and mouthed a single desperate word that will forever be burned into my memory. Run. My own flesh and blood was threatening the one man my grandfather had trusted more than anyone in the world. Whatever secret my family was hiding, they were clearly willing to hurt anyone to ensure it stayed buried. If you are with me on this, I need you to comment with your hometown and the exact time you are watching. I have to know I am not alone in this, because what happened next is something no one should ever have to face. I did not wait to see what Jackson would do next. I turned and fled the lawyer's office, my mind a chaotic storm of confusion and fear. I drove straight to the family estate on Spa Creek, my hands shaking so violently I could barely keep them on the steering wheel for the entire drive. My parents, Robert and Eleanor, along with my brother Jackson, had already returned from the post-funeral reception, claiming they were exhausted and needed to rest. The sprawling mansion, a place that once held so many happy memories, now looked ominous and forbidding, sitting dark except for the single lonely glow of the porch light. I parked my car 2 houses down the street, cut the engine, and just sat there watching the shadows. I waited. My breath held tight in my chest until the last light in the house flickered off, and every window was a black, empty square. Only then did I dare to move. I slipped through the wrought iron side gate, the latch groaning softly, and let myself in through the kitchen door, which I had purposefully left unlocked that morning. The cold marble floor was like ice beneath my bare feet as I tiptoed up the grand back staircase, carefully avoiding the 3rd step from the top, the one that had always creaked since I was a child. My grandfather's bedroom door was closed. I eased the handle down, inch by agonizing inch, slid inside the room, and clicked the lock behind me. The familiar scent of him, a comforting mix of salt air from the harbor and his old cedar-scented cologne, hit me like a physical blow, and tears sprang to my eyes. I did not switch on the main overhead light, opting instead for the small, dim lamp on his nightstand. The painting of his very first shipping vessel, the Chesapeake Star, still hung on the wall, slightly crooked just as he always left it. I lifted it from its hook. The safe was there, exactly where he had shown me all those years ago when I was a teenager, joking that it was where he kept his secret pirate treasure. I inserted the tiny brass key he had given me. The dial turned with a soft, satisfying click. Inside, there was only one thing, a thick, legal-sized manila envelope. I carried it over to his bed, the place where I used to sit and listen to his stories of the sea, and with trembling fingers, I opened the metal clasp. The very top page was a single sheet of his distinctive, elegant handwriting, dated just 11 days before he died. "My dearest Maya," it began. "If you are reading this, then I did not make it. For nearly a year, someone in this house has been methodically replacing my heart medication with pills designed to slowly, excruciatingly destroy me. I first noticed the difference in the taste, a bitter chalkiness that was not there before. Then came the waves of dizziness, followed by a persistent chest pain that never quite went away. I started pretending to swallow the tablets they handed me each morning and evening. I would palm them, flushing them later, and began driving to a private cardiologist in Baltimore, telling everyone they were business meetings. The blood tests confirmed my worst fears. They came back showing amiodarone toxicity at a level 4 times above the therapeutic dose, enough to kill a man half my age, let alone an 85-year-old. I managed to save one of the counterfeit bottles. You will find it in the plastic bag tucked behind this letter. 2 weeks ago, I met with a notary on the mainland and formally executed a new will. You, my dear, will inherit 80% of the entire estate. The 42 vessels in the fleet, the 3 commercial docks, the waterfront properties, the brokerage accounts, everything. Your parents are to be excluded entirely. I discovered they took out second mortgages against the company behind my back, sinking us into debt. Jackson and your sister Chloe will each receive 5%, held in a trust, no more. I wanted so badly to confront them, to demand why, but I was afraid. I knew they would only finish the job faster, so I stayed quiet, and I planned. I'm so sorry to leave you to carry this weight alone, Maya. You were always the only one who truly loved the ocean the way I did. Protect it for me. All my love, Grandpa. I had to read the letter 3 times before the words stopped swimming in front of my eyes. Behind it were 30 pages of legal documents, the notarized will with official filing stamps, detailed lab reports on Johns Hopkins letterhead, chain of custody forms for the evidence, and the sealed plastic bag containing the bottle of counterfeit pills. Everything was dated, signed, witnessed, and initialed in triplicate. It was ironclad. I pressed the papers to my chest, the room tilting around me. The same hands that used to tuck me into bed when I was a little girl, the same voices that sang Happy Birthday every single July, had been feeding him poison for almost a year. They believed his death would hand them the keys to a maritime empire. They never, for 1 second, imagined he was smart enough to rewrite the rules of the game while they were busy counting down the days until his death. I sat there on the edge of his bed until the first pale hints of dawn crept through the shutters, clutching the proof that the people sleeping downstairs were not my family, but strangers wearing their faces. The house immediately transformed into a cage. My father, Robert, started a new morning ritual over coffee. "Any strange calls lately, sweetheart?" he would ask every single day, his smile never quite reaching the cold calculation in his eyes. My mother, Eleanor, suddenly took a renewed interest in cooking all my favorite childhood meals, her gaze sharp and watchful, tracking every bite I took. Her eyes would flick down to my phone every time it buzzed, a flicker of panic in their depths. Jackson started lingering outside my bedroom door at night, his imposing shadow visible in the gap underneath, waiting until my lights went out. I stopped sleeping. I knew I had to get out of there, but I needed more. I needed proof they could not possibly explain away with lies and expensive lawyers. I sent a coded text to Liam Hayes, my best friend since our freshman year of college, the only person left on this earth I still trusted. He was now running live sound for big concerts up in Philadelphia, a genius with anything electronic. We agreed to meet at a tiny, hole-in-the-wall coffee shop on the corner of West Street, a place known for its cracked plastic tables out back where no one would overhear us. I got there first, ordered 2 large black coffees, and waited, my nerves shot. Liam walked in, wearing a black hoodie despite the sweltering heat, slid into the chair across from me, and did not waste a second on pleasantries. "Show me," he said, his voice low and serious. I slid my phone across the worn table. I had spent hours the night before photographing every single page from the safe. He scrolled through them in complete silence, his jaw tightening with each swipe of his thumb. When he finally looked up, his eyes were hard. "Tonight," he said, "they are taking the big sport fisher out for a memorial sunset cruise. The whole family. That house will be empty for at least 5 hours. We go in at 9. We park 3 blocks away and walk the rest of the way, cutting through the manicured backyards of our neighbors until we reach the gate behind our pool." Liam had a cheap magnetic key fob cloner he had bought online. The garage side door clicked open in seconds. The air inside was thick with the smell of boat fuel and chlorine. We moved quickly and quietly. He went for my father's office first. The bottom drawer of the massive mahogany desk was locked, but a simple flathead screwdriver popped it open. Inside, tucked away in a folder deceptively labeled medical supplies, were the bank transfer receipts. They were from an account in my mother's maiden name, sent to a shell corporation that traced back to an online pharmacy in New Jersey, just a few hours north. Each receipt listed amiodarone 200 milligrams tablets, no imprint. Tucked behind them were handwritten notes in my mother's neat, perfect cursive, increased by 0.25 milligrams per week starting month 8. A wave of nausea washed over me. Liam photographed everything with his phone on silent mode, then moved on to the kitchen island where Jackson had carelessly left his old iPhone charging. The Face ID was still set to my brother's smug face, but the battery was dead. Liam plugged it into a small laptop he carried in his backpack, ran a quick bypass program he had written himself, and opened the Messages app. There it was. One group chat named The Legacy, with 427 unread messages. He scrolled all the way to the beginning, 11 months back. Eleanor wrote, "He complained the pills taste different today." Jackson replied, "Told him it is a new generic. He bought it." Robert added, "Good. Lab confirmed the new batch will push him over the edge in 6 to 8 weeks." Eleanor followed up. "Once the doctor signs the certificate, the banks release the collateral. We are clear." Jackson chimed in, 6.5 million liquid by end of quarter. We disappear if we have to." My father had sent a photo 2 weeks ago, a black duffel bag stuffed to the brim with cash, sitting on his office desk. The caption underneath simply read, "Insurance policy." Liam's face went completely white. He backed up the entire message thread to an encrypted drive, then meticulously wiped any digital trace that we had ever been there. We slipped out the same way we came in, making sure to lock the door behind us. Standing under the dim glow of a streetlight, he handed me the small, powerful drive. "They really did it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "And they think they are about to be rich." I stared at the tiny piece of plastic in my palm, feeling the ground shift beneath my feet all over again. "They have no idea the money is already gone from their reach," I whispered back. Liam gave a single, firm nod. "Then let us make sure they find out the hard way." Liam did not want to take any chances with the house's exterior security cameras, so he waited until the motion sensors on the perimeter clicked off for their nightly reset at 10:42 p.m. He walked the 4 blocks from where we had parked, dressed head to toe in black, a baseball cap pulled low, moving with the casual slouch of another local who had one too many beers at a downtown pub. I watched from our rental car, my heart hammering against my ribs. 37 seconds later, he was underneath Jackson's lifted black Ford F-150. He pressed the tiny, voice-activated recorder, military grade, no lights, 48-hour battery, against the frame rail just above the rear axle. A tiny magnetic snap confirmed it was in place. He was back in the passenger seat before the next car even turned down the street. We drove 1 block closer, parking under the drooping, heavy branches of a willow tree. We killed the engine and slipped the wireless earpieces in. The feed crackled to life instantly. Faint road noise, and then the low, distinctive rumble of the truck's engine as it pulled out from the marina. We sat in absolute silence. The recorder captured everything with perfect, chilling clarity. At 11:51 p.m., the truck rolled back through the gate. We heard doors open, 3 distinct sets of footsteps on the gravel driveway, and the metallic clank of the tailgate dropping. Then, their voices came through, close and completely unguarded, because they believed the closed garage door hid them from the world. My mother spoke first, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. She has been weird since that whole thing with the lawyer. I found her phone on the counter earlier. She had deleted her call log, but I saw the Annapolis area code prefix. My father's reply was calm, punctuated by the clinking of glassware as he poured himself something strong. She can delete whatever she wants. The death certificate is filed. Congestive heart failure due to chronic atrial fibrillation. Signed, sealed, and already in the courthouse system. 10 business days, and the probate judge releases the funds. Jackson snorted, the sound of keys jangling as he tossed them onto his workbench. She thinks she is so smart. Always did. Grandpa let her steer the boats when she was still in high school. Flew her to every boat show from Fort Lauderdale to Newport. Meanwhile, I was scraping barnacles off hulls for minimum wage. He never even saw me. My mother again, her voice softer now, almost proud. That is why we started the switch 11 months ago. Slow, steady, impossible to trace. The lab in New Jersey even removed the imprint so the pills looked identical. He never suspected his own family. My father cut in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, but still perfectly clear through the microphone. $6.5 million hits the main account the moment probate clears. We pay off the bank, sell the fleet to the highest bidder, and we are on a plane heading south before the ink is even dry. Maya gets whatever scraps the creditors leave behind, which will be nothing. There was a pause. The sound of ice cubes clinking in a glass again. Jackson, closer to the truck now, his voice filled with a cruel, almost laughing tone. She will stand there with that sad little face of hers while we are sipping drinks on a beachfront property she will never even get to see. Grandpa's little princess finally learns what the real world costs. My mother's heels click toward the interior door. Stop gloating and get some sleep. We have the memorial toast tomorrow night. Act normal. The door to the house shut. Silence returned, broken only by the distant chirping of crickets. Liam slowly pulled his earpiece out, his eyes fixed on the dark, silent house. They just handed us the entire case on a silver platter. Time-stamped, GPS locked, 3 voices confessing to premeditated murder for financial gain. I stared down at my trembling hands. They had toasted to killing him like it was just another business deal they were closing. Liam started the car. "Well," he said, his voice grim, "we are about to bankrupt that deal. Permanently." The morning of the formal will reading arrived, oppressively clear and hot. The First National Bank of Annapolis had reserved its largest conference room on the 2nd floor, with panoramic windows overlooking the harbor. More than 70 people filled the seats. Distant cousins I had not seen in years, grizzled captains who had worked for Grandpa since the 80s, local reporters smelling a story, and even the county medical examiner, standing quietly in the back row. My parents and Jackson took the front row, center stage, dressed as if they were attending a victory party. My mother wore pearls, my father his navy blazer with the family crest embroidered on the pocket, and Jackson wore a pair of expensive sunglasses he refused to take off indoors. They smiled graciously at everyone, accepting condolences with a practiced ease that made my stomach turn. I sat 3 rows behind them, with Liam beside me in a borrowed suit, his laptop bag resting at his feet. Caleb Vance, looking 10 years older than the last time I had seen him, stood at the podium. Dark circles ringed his eyes, and his hands trembled slightly as he opened the leather-bound folder. He cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to read the last will and testament of Silas Sterling, executed and notarized exactly 14 days prior to his passing. He began reading through the standard legal clauses. Then he reached the dispositive provisions, Article 7. To my son, Robert Sterling, and his wife, Eleanor, I leave the sum of $1 each, in recognition of the substantial gifts already made and the outstanding liabilities they have incurred against company assets without my knowledge or consent. Gasps rippled through the room. My father half rose from his chair, his face flushing a deep crimson. Article 8. To my grandson, Jackson Sterling, and my granddaughter, Chloe Sterling, I leave 5% of the residuary estate each to be held in trust until they reach the age of 35. Jackson ripped off his sunglasses, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Article 9. The remaining 80% of my estate, including but not limited to the shipping fleet, commercial docks, brokerage accounts, and all real property, I devise and bequeath in fee, simple absolute to my granddaughter, Maya Marie Sterling. The projector screen behind Mr. Vance, previously dark, suddenly blazed to life. Liam had already breached the bank's guest Wi-Fi and taken control of their AV system. The lights in the conference room dimmed automatically, and then my mother's voice, crisp and clear, filled the stunned silence, recorded just 6 nights earlier. She has been weird since the lawyer thing. Once the doctor signs the certificate, the banks release the collateral. Then my father's voice. $6.5 million hits the account the moment probate clears. We list the fleet and disappear. And finally, Jackson's, cold and laughing. She will stand there with that sad face while we are sipping drinks on a beachfront property she will never see. Every single text message from the legacy chat appeared on the screen, in chronological order, dates and timestamps glowing, ending with the photo of the duffel bag full of cash. The room erupted into chaos. Reporters were standing on their chairs trying to get a better angle. A forest of phones rose into the air like black mirrors. 2 uniformed sheriff's deputies started moving toward the front row. My father, shouting over the pandemonium, pointed a trembling finger at Vance. "This is fraud! That will was signed under duress." Jackson bolted from his seat, shoving past people, heading straight for me. You did this!" he screamed. Security guards intercepted him just 6 feet away. My mother collapsed sideways into the aisle, her pearl necklace breaking and scattering across the carpet, her sobs echoing theatrically. We only wanted what was ours. Mr. Vance did not even flinch. He simply continued reading the final clause Grandpa had added in his own handwriting. And to anyone who contests this will, I leave nothing, and I direct my executrix to defend it with every dollar necessary. The screen looped the evidence one more time, the volume even louder now, as the deputies cuffed my father, mother, and brother right there in front of all the cameras. Jackson screamed my name the entire way out of the room, the veins in his neck bulging. I remained seated until the room was empty, the immense weight of 80% of everything my grandfather had built now resting squarely on my shoulders, along with the chilling knowledge that the 3 people who should have loved me most had valued money more than his life. The bank reading became front-page news across the East Coast by sunset. In a move that shocked everyone, my parents and Jackson were released on signature bonds that same afternoon. Because Maryland law requires a thorough investigation for such high-profile cases, the state attorney wanted to take their time building an airtight case before filing formal charges. They walked out of the courthouse smiling for the cameras, brazenly claiming the recordings were doctored and the will was a forgery coerced from a dying man. They went straight home. packed 3 large duffel bags, and by midnight, the fastest boat in the fleet, the 65-foot Viking named Empty Nest, was gone from its slip. The Coast Guard logged it heading southeast toward the Atlantic. Their destination was clearly the Caribbean, and then anywhere else in the world that did not have an extradition treaty with the United States. They never saw us coming. I had called the FBI's Baltimore field office the very night Liam pulled the audio. A special agent named Sarah Miller had taken my statement, listened to every single file, and asked only one question. "Can you get them to talk about the money one more time on U.S. soil?" I told her I could. Liam spoofed a text message from Douglas Mercer, Grandpa's former CFO, who had already flipped and was in protective custody. The message read, "Cash is ready, 6.5 wired to offshore, but I can only release it in person. Dock 19, 4 a.m. Come alone, or the deal dies." My father replied in under 2 minutes. "On our way. Dock 19 sits at the very end of a private peninsula owned by the estate, gated, no public access, and lit only by the eerie orange glow of sodium security lamps." Agent Miller had 6 agents in plain clothes, hiding among the stacked shipping containers and concrete pilings. Liam and I watched from a shrimp boat 2 slips over, night vision binoculars pressed to our faces. At 3:57 a.m., the Empty Nest eased in, running lights off, its engines throttled down to a whisper. My father killed the diesels and tossed lines to the empty dock. All 3 of them stepped off carrying their heavy duffels and a single rolling suitcase. Jackson scanned the darkness with a powerful flashlight. My mother clutched her purse like it was a life jacket. Douglas Mercer's voice came from the shadows near the fuel pumps, exactly where Miller had placed a hidden agent, using Mercer's recorded greeting as a lure. "Over here. The money is in the office." They walked straight into the trap. My father spoke first, his voice echoing off the metal containers. $6.5 million in hundreds, right? We are out of here by sunrise." The agent answered with Mercer's exact cadence. "Cash is inside. Let us move." Jackson dropped his bag and stretched. "Once we are clear of the coast, Maya can have the scraps. She will be lucky to keep one leaky skiff." My mother laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. She always thought she was so special. It is time she learned different. My father set the suitcase on the dock and popped it open. Inside were stacks of blank paper, wrapped to look like cash, a standard prop for a sting operation. "Let us count it and go." That was the signal. The floodlights snapped on, bathing the entire area in blinding white light. 12 FBI agents in raid jackets stepped out from the shadows, weapons drawn. "Federal agents! Hands in the air!" my mother screamed. Jackson spun around, looking for an escape route that did not exist. My father just froze, his mouth hanging open. Agent Miller walked forward, reading from a card. "Robert Sterling, Eleanor Sterling, Jackson Sterling. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, wire fraud, and interstate flight to avoid prosecution. You have the right to remain silent." Jackson lunged for the boat rail, but 2 agents tackled him face first onto the teak deck. My mother collapsed to her knees, sobbing, clutching at Jackson's shirt. "Do not say anything, baby. Do not say a word." My father just stared at the fake money, realization finally dawning on his face. "He changed it," he whispered. "He actually changed everything." The sound of handcuffs clicking echoed across the water. The agents bagged the duffels as evidence of intent to flee. Body cams and dock cameras recorded every second. Jackson, bleeding from a cut on his lip where he had hit the deck, looked straight toward the shrimp boat and saw me standing under the cabin light. "You set us up!" he spat, his voice full of venom. I did not answer. I did not need to. The FBI's microphones had caught his final confession perfectly. By sunrise, the Empty Nest was impounded. The 3 of them were on a prisoner transport to the Federal Detention Center, and our story was leading every local and national newscast. They never made it to the islands. They never touched a single dollar. The federal courthouse in Baltimore rose like a concrete fortress against the blistering August sky. Inside courtroom 12A, the air conditioning hummed, a low drone that did little to soothe the nervous energy. Jury selection had taken 4 grueling days. Every potential juror was asked 2 key questions. Had they ever lost a grandparent to a long illness, and had money ever divided their family? 3 people were excused for crying alone. Opening statements began on a Monday. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maria Delgado, wearing a sharp navy suit, spoke to the jury without a single note. She told the 12 jurors and 4 alternates that this was not a case of who done it, but of how long and how coldly. She laid out the entire timeline on a large board. 11 months of switched pills, forged lab orders, and celebratory text messages about a fortune they believed was already theirs. The defense counsel, a trio of high-priced attorneys in identical charcoal suits, argued it was all a tragic misunderstanding, a case of elder paranoia. They flashed old childhood photos of me on the boats with Grandpa, claiming I had manipulated a dying, confused man. The jury remained stone-faced. I was the first witness called to the stand. Ms. Delgado walked me through every piece of evidence slowly and methodically. The letter from the safe, the toxicology reports showing lethal levels of amiodarone, the pharmacy receipts from New Jersey, the screenshots from the Legacy group chat, the garage recording, the DocSting video. Each document appeared on 2 giant screens, displayed in perfect clarity for the entire room to see. When the garage audio played, my parents and brother laughing about natural causes being just days away, the courtroom went completely silent. The only sound their own damning voices. Cross-examination lasted for 3 brutal hours. The lead defense lawyer tried to rattle me, asking about my sudden wealth and whether I felt guilty inheriting everything. I gave the same answer each time. I feel guilty that the people who were supposed to be my family valued money more than my grandfather's life. My father took the stand next, wearing a borrowed suit 2 sizes too big, the bright orange of his jail scrubs visible at the collar. He claimed Grandpa had been suffering from dementia and that I had coerced him into signing the new will. On cross-examination, Ms. Delgado utterly destroyed him with the notary's sworn testimony and hospital visitor logs, which proved I was never once alone with Grandpa after the new will was signed. My mother cried through her entire testimony, mascara streaking down her face, insisting she only wanted to protect the company from bankruptcy. The jury, who had just watched the same woman on the doc recording, saying I would be lucky to keep 1 leaky skiff, stopped buying the tears. Jackson, on his lawyer's advice, refused to testify. His attorney filed a motion to suppress all recordings as illegal wiretaps, but Judge Morales denied it in a 23-page order, citing exigent circumstances and one-party consent. The evidence stayed in. Closing arguments lasted a full day. Ms. Delgado ended her summation with a single photograph projected behind her. Grandpa and me on the flying bridge of his boat the day I earned my captain's license, both of us sunburned and laughing. They murdered him for an inheritance they never earned and would never receive, she said quietly. Make sure they never profit from it. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours and 12 minutes. Guilty. On every single count: first-degree murder with pecuniary gain, conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated manslaughter of an elderly person, wire fraud, and money laundering. Because the government had elected not to seek the death penalty, Maryland statute mandated 1 sentence and 1 sentence only. Judge Elena Morales looked at each defendant in turn. Robert Sterling, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Eleanor Sterling, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Jackson Sterling, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. My sister, Chloe, sat in the last row. She had been granted immunity for her testimony about overhearing the plan, but never reporting it. In a final act of justice, the judge revoked her 5% trust in its entirety, redirecting every cent to a victim restitution fund. As the U.S. Marshals placed them in cuffs, Jackson turned toward the gallery. His eyes found mine across the courtroom. For a split second, the mask of hatred cracked, and I saw something raw flicker there. Regret, maybe, or just pure fear. Then it was gone. He mouthed a single word at me that I did not need to hear to understand. I stood up, smoothed the front of my skirt, and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. The heavy doors closed behind me with a solid thud that sounded exactly like the word final. I stood alone in front of Grandpa's grave at the Annapolis Cemetery on a quiet Thursday morning. The headstone was simple, elegant gray granite. Silas Sterling, 1939 to 2024, Keeper of the Sea. A light breeze carried the scent of salt and flowers across the neat rows of white markers. I laid a bouquet of bright sunflowers at the base, his favorite. 2 years had passed. 2 years since I had legally changed my name to Maya Marie Cole, my grandmother's maiden name, from before she married into the Sterling family. The court clerk in Anne Arundel County did not even blink. The paperwork was filed the same week their prison sentences became final. The name Sterling no longer belonged to me. The fleet still runs, all 42 boats, but now every captain is on a full salary. Every crew member gets health insurance, and all profits above our operating costs go directly into the Silas Sterling Medical Scholarship Fund. We've already awarded 58 full-ride scholarships to first-generation college students studying cardiology or geriatric medicine, kids who grew up on food stamps but scored perfectly on their exams. I read every single application myself. Chloe tried to reach out to me once, about 6 months after the sentencing, asking if she could have something, anything, to remember Grandpa by. I sent back a single postcard of the cemetery with just 7 words written on the back. You already got your memory of him. She never wrote again. Liam moved to Nashville to mix live records for big country music acts, but he still flies down every February for the scholarship awards ceremony. We drink coffee on the dock at sunrise, and we do not talk about the trial. We do not have to. Sometimes tourists will ask why the biggest maritime company in the area is run by a 29-year-old woman with no family name on any of the signs. I always tell them the truth. The man who built it all wanted the ocean to stay open to everyone, not locked away behind greed. I knelt down, brushed a little sand off the engraved stone, and finally spoke the words I had carried with me for 2 long years. I kept my promise, Grandpa. Not 1 penny of your money ever reached their hands. The company is healthy, the boats are perfectly maintained, and every kid we put through medical school carries your name on their degree. They are going to save lives that you never got the chance to live. I stood up, turned my back to the grave, and walked down the shell path toward the gate. The sun was warm on my face, the same sun that had warmed his every single morning he spent out on the water. Family is not always blood. Sometimes family is the promise you keep when everyone else has broken theirs. Sometimes justice is not loud and explosive. It is quiet, it is steady, and it is final. And sometimes the greatest inheritance you can ever receive is not money at all. It is knowing you did the right thing, that you chose truth when lies would have been so much easier. End of story.